Sergeant Jonathan Kelly, last name is spelled Kelly.
Sergeant Kelly, where do you work?
Horry County Police Department,
How long have you worked there?
a little over 15 years.
What's your current position at Horry County PD?
Currently, I work for the Office of Professional Standards. Most people might refer to it as Internal Affairs.
How long have you worked with Internal Affairs?
7 months.
What are some of your duties and responsibilities as a sergeant in Internal Affairs?
Mostly, we conduct investigations related to policy violations. Additionally, we might respond to subpoenas and FOIA requests, things like that.
Okay. What was your assignment back in October 2020?
I was assigned as a detective to the Homicide Division
What were your duties as a detective assigned to the Homicide Division?
to investigate death investigations or violent assaults, robbery, and anything else, any other types of crimes that I was asked to do. Also assist other officers in whatever crimes they were investigating.
Were you asked to assist in the investigation into the murder of Gregory Rice on October 2nd, 2020?
I was.
How did you become involved?
On, I believe it was October 13th, I was asked to go to Abuelos near Coastal Grand Mall in the Myrtle Beach section of Horry County. And I was asked to obtain surveillance to see if there was, if the defendant and co-defendant were on surveillance.
Okay. And were you able to get surveillance footage from Abuelos?
I was. We got footage from roughly 6 p.m. to 11 p.m.
And could you see the defendant on that footage?
I did.
Did you verify when you were out there that the date and time on the footage was correct?
Not the first day. So when we obtained surveillance on the 13th, we obtained, like I said, from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. And I then took that footage back to the office and reviewed it. I remembered after reviewing it that we hadn't verified the timestamp with current time. So the next day on the 14th, I went back to the location, verified that the timestamp was 35 minutes fast. So you'd have to subtract 35 minutes from the timestamp on the video to get real time. I also noticed during that time that we missed an angle the first time. When we were downloading the footage, we were trying to just get footage where patrons would be. So we didn't download the portions related to like back of house, like the chef's cook's area.
Okay.
So I observed a different angle as I was verifying the timestamp. So I also got additional footage that day as well on the 14th.
You said you verified the date and time. How did you do that?
I looked at what was displayed on the live feed, and then I looked at my cell phone and just compared the two.
So you found out, I believe you said it was 35 minutes ahead?
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit. May I approach, Hunter?
They need to bring her a sweater.
Show you State's Exhibit 14, it's already been admitted into evidence. Did you get a copy of the video from Abuelos that day?
Yes.
Did you provide a copy of that to the solicitor's office?
Yes.
Have you reviewed that flash drive?
I have.
And is that a copy, a true accurate copy of what you provided?
It is.
Okay?
And I can tell that because it has my signature on it.
You signed it. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 14A and 14C. Let's start with 14A. Have you reviewed that disc? You can take it out.
I don't see my signature on this one.
Have you reviewed?
But it does say clips from Abuelo's video, which is the footage that I collected.
So have you reviewed clips from Abuelo's footage?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you 14C. Same question. Is that also a disc with clips? Is clips from 14?
Yes. Again, I don't see specifically my signature on this one, but it is also, the disc is states that it's clips from Abuelos, which would be the footage that I obtained.
Okay, and have you reviewed clips from Abuelos?
Yes,
And are those clips fair and accurate representations of what's contained on Exhibit 14?
yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would admit 14A and 14C in evidence of published to the jury.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. That we instructed the witness that he's not able to establish the proper chain of custody for it. There's no signature on those documents, on those discs to identify that he's the person who handled them. Don't have any way to know whether or not they've been tampered or if those are in fact the ones that were procured for that day.
Your Honor, do you want me to respond?
Well, no, I mean, he says he's just basing it upon what's written on there.
Well, he said that he's reviewed the clips. The clips
But earlier on, he said
well,
he didn't know what it was, but he was reading as to what it is.
Your Honor, he's reviewed the clips. The solicitor's office just burns them to a disc from our system.
Exactly.
That's all it is.
So we'll use Exhibit 14.
Well, Exhibit 14 is voluminous.
Well, and I understand that,
We can.
but he did not properly authenticate 14A and 14C.
Your Honor, if it's okay with the court, we'll move on to a different witness. We'll have him review those, just so we don't have the jury sitting there watching a voluminous amount of material.
That'll be fine.
Thank you.
So for right now, I'm sustaining the defendant's objections to 14A and 14C as they have not been properly authenticated.
Okay, we'll have him review them, Your Honor, and get back to it.
All right.
So I can step down?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, wait a minute, wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, we were trying to pause this witness and recall him in a few minutes. Well, I guess we'll have to play the video then, I'm sorry.
That was a great objection from the defense.
What we'll
Make
do
it-
is try to,
It might not change anything substantively, but it's rattling and throwing off the prosecutor a little bit. So that was a great objection here from the brother.
Your Honor, let's maybe break.
Oh, yeah, you heard that? So she's like, Your Honor, and now they're panning up and they're approaching the bench. Oops. And judge does not look like he's with it. He seems to like a streamlined court.
That's the motion that they
Sidebar. Uh,
All right, they want you to review that video.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Defense counsel wants to go over there while they review it.
Oh, sure, yes, sir. Thank you.
Very well.
Your Honor, is the jury going to watch him review the video?
No, that's not in evidence. It cannot be seen by the jury at this juncture.
Thank you.
They won't be able to see it. Make sure that you project it.
this judge said, You're not going to sully my record.
Well, you're gonna make some important questions.
You get that. All right, that's no testimony.
We'll make it a little faster so we don't miss it if they say something. But it seems like a bit of idling here. Yeah, and say biz, you know, I don't know why it won't pull up. StreamYard hates me right now. But Tay Biz is saying, I keep telling people how lazy and unorganized prosecutors can be, and it never fails. And I also think there's this expectation that your witness, especially a witness that works in law enforcement, is just always just going to give whatever answer to lay the foundation that you need, whether they authentically can lay the foundation for you or All right, guys, I'm back. That's the second day in a row StreamYard has given me an error, so I don't know what StreamYard is doing. But you didn't miss anything significant. We were just speeding up to get through the dilly-dallying and going through the exhibits over there. And I was also saying, Tay Biz, you know, you keep telling people how lazy and unorganized prosecutors can be, and it never fails. And I would say also they seem to expect that when they have a law enforcement officer or whatever on the witness stand, that it's going to just be an automatic foundation laid. And right there, the guy said, you know, honestly, I don't it's missing my signature. It's not there, but it does say that this is what it is. Defense astutely objected, judge agrees, and now the prosecution has to figure out how to get it together because they can't just play the shorter exhibits that they plan to put in. So sorry about that, and we are back.
All right,
Okay, let's try this again.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, did you just step off the stand and watch State's Exhibit 14A?
I did.
Is that a copy of clips from the video surveillance you obtained from the boilers?
Yes.
Is that a fair and accurate copy of the actual footage you obtained?
Yes.
Your Honor, the State seeks to admit 14A in evidence and publish to the jury.
any objection?
Not to be difficult, Your Honor, but they still haven't established a chain of custody with this particular district, Your Honor.
Your Honor, the chain of custody is not required for this disc.
Let me make a,
Okay.
okay, you don't need to continue arguing, you tendered it into evidence, they've raised their objection, now I have to rule on their objection, all right? All right, State's Exhibit 14A is admitted into evidence over defendant's objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm going to show you 14C. Have you also reviewed 14C?
I have.
And is that a true and accurate copy of the video footage you actually obtained that day?
It is.
Your Honor, the State seeks to introduce 14C in evidence and publish it to the jury.
Any objection?
Mr. Your Honor.
All right, State's Exhibit 14C admitted into evidence without objection.
All right. Sergeant Kelly,
Yes, ma'am.
we just watched State's Exhibit 14C. Could you identify anyone that you could see on that video?
Yes.
And who was that?
Chris Dontell and Meagan Jackson were exiting the location. And again,
And were you familiar with Chris Dontell and Meagan Jackson prior to obtaining this video?
yes.
How did you know who they were?
Chris Dontell was a deputy coroner, so he had been on several death investigations that I had been on, so just working relationship, had known him. And same with Meagan Jackson, she was a transport driver for the coroner's office, so, or for a contracted company, I guess. But I knew
You
her.
recognize them by sight?
Yes.
You know what they look like?
Yeah,
Okay. And I'm sorry, I think I played them out of order. Let's play 14A. So that one, I believe you just said was them leaving.
correct.
Can you tell me, if you can still see it, the date and time stamp on there?
That says October 2nd, 2020 at 19:57, which is military time is actually 7:57. But again, that's 35 minutes fast, so it should be maybe 7:22, if I'm
Okay.
subtracting that right.
Exactly. Athlete must run through it. Okay, let's see. Let's play 14A. Okay, we just watched 14A. Can you tell me what you viewed on that video?
That was Chris and Megan arriving at Abuelos.
No, I should have a
about
backpack.
50 minutes earlier than the previous video.
Okay, so they're out of order, but one is arriving, one's leaving.
Correct.
And what's the date on both of those?
October 2nd, 2020.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, I'm going to approach with what's been marked as State's Exhibit 14B. Can you tell me what this is?
This is one of the other angles. This is a screenshot of Chris and Megan sitting at the bar at Abuelos on the same date, and the timestamp on that is 7:09.
Okay, and is that a steal from the video, State's Exhibit 14?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, State seeks to introduce 14B in evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
State's Exhibit 14B is admitted into evidence without objection.
Oh, Your Honor, we publish this to the jury.
All right.
Okay, Sergeant Kelly, there's a red circle on here. Who do you see sitting at the bar?
That's Chris and Megan.
And again, what time was that?
Timestamp on there is 1909, which would be 7:09. And again, you have to subtract 35 minutes to get the right time, I believe.
I'm going to approach and show you what's been marked in State Exhibit 15, 16, and 17.
Okay, fine.
And are these also stills from the video we literally just watched?
Yes, the time on this, or the number 17 is Chris and Megan leaving. Number 16 is Chris and Megan arriving, as is number 15. Those are just a few seconds apart.
And are those fair and accurate representations of video stills from State's Exhibit 14?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, State would seek to admit 15, 16, and 17.
She's bouncing in her seat. She's like going like this.
Any objection?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
All right, State's Exhibits 15, 16, and 17 admitted into evidence without objection.
So I believe you just kind of told us what they show, but just for the purpose of, flip it. Okay, just now that the jury can actually see the picture, I know we've seen the video, but just tell me what this Exhibit 15 shows.
This is Chris and Megan arriving, and as I'm looking at this, I also realized the timestamp on the actual footage there is that was 7:41 on the timestamp, but the time that was showing on the video clip was covering that timestamp, so that's actually the accurate time.
Okay.
So the time that was showing on the videos that we watched was accurate timing. This is, when I watched the video on the actual footage, that's the timestamp that's on there.
So there's the original time and a corrected time, is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
so that timestamp at the bottom center of the photo is the timestamp that the footage shows from the surveillance system. That time that's noted on the right is the corrected time when you subtract the 35 minutes.
And I believe you testified that you verified that night that the correct time was the time in real life.
Yes.
Okay, let's have 16. Okay, so in this photo, who do you see in this photo?
That's Chris Dontell and Meagan Jackson again.
And can you tell from this photo what Christopher Dontell is wearing?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's like a blue long sleeve shirt and some dark colored pants with brown shoes.
And what's the date and timestamp on this one?
This is October 2nd, 2020.
Okay, let's have exhibit 17, please. Okay, and once again, what do you see in this video?
Again, this is when Chris Dontell and Meagan Jackson are leaving Abuelos.
What's the date and timestamp on this one?
That is October 2nd, 2020.
What's the accurate time?
The accurate time is 7:57 p.m.
Okay. Did you, after going to Abuelos and locating this surveillance footage, did you try to check any other businesses in the area to see if any additional surveillance footage could be located?
I did. I checked.
Go ahead.
I checked Coastal Grand Mall and some of the other businesses on the exterior of Coastal Grand Mall and the exterior perimeter road around Coastal Grand Mall, and I didn't find anything of interest.
You said you found nothing else.
Yeah, nothing of interest.
Did you and another detective check for video at or near the Lowe's Food Plaza on International Drive?
Yes.
Why were you asked to do that?
There was information that Greg Rice's phone tracked to that area. One of its last pings was in that area, so we were just checking businesses around that area for surveillance footage.
Okay. And what date were you looking for?
I believe October 2nd and into October 3rd, I believe.
Why was that date important?
That was the last day that his phone pinged, and that was I believe, the last time that it was reported that he was seen.
Okay. Were you able to locate any surveillance footage from that shopping center?
Yes.
Where were you able to get it from?
Howell's Computer Repair.
Okay. Where's that located?
I don't know the exact address, but if you're looking at Lowe's front door from the parking lot, it's to the left, but in the same structure, like the same plaza building.
Okay. Have you reviewed that video?
I have.
And does that video have a date and time stamp?
It does.
Okay. We've learned from our stipulation that that time stamp is 10 minutes fast. I'm going to approach with what's already been admitted into evidence as states Exhibit 21,
Yes.
just to see. Is this a copy? Did you give a copy of the surveillance to the solicitor?
Not the ASMR I want.
The copy was, I'm not sure how necessarily it was delivered, but again, my signature's not on this particular.
This one's already been admitted into evidence.
Okay.
The copy that we make copies of what you provide.
Okay, yes, so, yes, it was submitted to evidence.com and evidence the way that we would normally submit it, correct?
Okay, so when you say you submitted to evidence.com, is that uploading it to a computer software system?
Yes,
So you're not, I'm just clarifying, you're not actually delivering flash drives to the solicitor's office?
correct.
All right. Did you also, I'm going to approach with what's been marked as States Exhibit 22. Okay. May I approach, Sean?
Yes.
All right, so this one, I believe has your initials, so let's look and see.
Yes.
Okay, So have you reviewed that disc and verified what it is?
Yes.
And what is that disc?
This is clips from the footage obtained from Hal's surveillance camera.
Okay. And is this a fair and accurate representation of the clips that you obtained?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state seeks to introduce Exhibit 22 in evidence and publish in jury.
Any objection?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
State's Exhibit 22 admitted into evidence without objection.
Oh, so is this the license plate? Yeah, they seem like they seriously have the whole timeline of the night. Like, they went to dinner, then they were driving, then they stopped by here, then they went here. They were in this vehicle at this time.
Okay. So, play 22. Okay. So pause for 1 second, just for clarification. Sergeant Kelly,
Yes, ma'am.
when you obtained this video footage, did you obtain footage other than just the defendant? That's inartfully worded. What I'm asking is, when you obtained it, did you obtain a specific time period and not just footage of the defendant?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So are what we're looking at here clips of the portions of the footage that relate to the defendant, Meagan Jackson?
Correct.
Okay. So let's play this one. Okay, so first of all, just pause it. What's the date and time on this video?
October 2nd, 2020.
And can you read the timestamp?
The time says 23:17, and if I remember right, I believe that's 10 minutes fast. So it should actually really be, in layman's terms, it would be 11:07 p.m.
Okay, and as we watch the video, can you tell us what you see in the video?
As we watch it,
Yep,
Okay.
as it happens, try to narrate.
All right.
We can pause it when we need to.
there's a silver Ford Explorer, which I know is what Chris Dontell drives as a county vehicle, and the van that pulled in is also what I know Meagan Jackson drives for transport.
Okay,
Here we see Dontell getting out of the vehicle, and we'll see in a second his clothing is the same that he was wearing at Abuelo's.
does he have anything in his hand?
He has a,
May I have an objection, if I could state it, please? All right. I don't believe it's appropriate for the witness to narrate the evidence. This is the evidence that they're presenting to the jury. The jury's able to see it. Doesn't need to be a narrator for it. And I don't think that's appropriate testimony on it.
Would you like me to respond?
Please.
Your Honor, the
Overruled.
witness is narrating the video because he's a police detective, and as part of his investigation, he reviewed this video and located the defendants and their cars and the defendants themselves on the video. This is a way the state frequently presents evidence. It's nothing out of the ordinary. I don't see anything wrong with the defendant stating what he sees on the video. He can either do it while it's playing, or I can have him do it when it's not playing.
Well, I don't think just because it's been done in the past makes it something you just can do today, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to allow the testimony, but ladies and gentlemen, it's up to you to decide factually what the video shows. If you find that the witness's account does not coincide with what you view, then you're to disregard his testimony. I'll allow him to testify as to what he says the video shows, but ultimately it's going to be your decision to decide what the video shows. All right?
Thank you, Your Honor.
You can continue to narrate.
so he's carrying a bag.
Okay.
this point, he appears to open the rear hatch to the van and puts the bag in the rear area of the van.
They didn't say anything about this timestamp, right? So this is like 11:19 p.m. on Friday still. And they're taking like a minute or so far. Oh, 10 minutes fast. Thanks, Factual Lie. Factual Lie always has the truth.
It's now roughly real-time 11:10. Chris Dontell opens and closes the rear hatch of the Explorer. And just a few seconds later, still roughly 11:10 p.m., the van drives out of the parking lot.
And you may have already said this, but did you recognize that van?
Yeah, that's what I know Meagan Jackson to drive.
In what capacity did she drive that van?
Transport van for transporting dissidents or decedents.
Let's play the second one.
Bring the flames back up. That is not good, chat.
Okay, pause for 1 second. Okay, what's the date and time on this video?
This one is October 3rd, 2020, and the timestamp shows 12:25 a.m., just after midnight, but the actual time is 12:15 a.m.
Okay, now we can play this. And what do you see parked there in the parking lot?
The Explorer is still there, and now a van is pulling up. It's the same make, model, appearing to be the same transport van that Meagan Jackson is known to drive. There I see, again, same outfit, Chris Dontell exiting the driver's seat, going into the rear hatch of the van, pulls out what appears to be the same bag from earlier. It was hard to see there, but in between the two vehicles, you could see a person walk from the passenger side of the van in between the vehicles, and the clothing was dark. So I assume Meagan Jackson. It's consistent with the clothing she was seen in Abuelos. Chris Dontell loads the bag back into the Ford Explorer and gets into the driver's seat. Now, real time, it is roughly 12:17 a.m. and the Explorer is driving off. And now the van is left behind.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next group.
See what they do with that on cross, but that is,
What's the date and time here?
This is October 3rd, 2020. Timestamp says 1:27 a.m. Real time would be 1:17 a.m.
Okay, you can press one. And what do you see parked in the parking lot there?
Meagan Jackson's van is still parked there. There's a silver Ford Explorer arriving, which is consistent with Chris Dontell's county vehicle. Again, we see coming from the passenger side a person appearing to wear all dark clothing. That's consistent with what I saw in the Abuelos video that Meagan Jackson was wearing. She appears to get into the passenger side of the van. Chris Dontell grabs the bag out of the Explorer again, walks to the van, pops the rear hatch. Places the bag in the van, closes the rear hatch. Then he gets into the driver's seat of the van at timestamp 1:29, but again, 10 minutes fast. That would real time would be 1:19. And then the van drives off, leaving the Explorer behind again this time.
Okay. All right, final video. Final clip. All right, so what's the date and time here?
This is October 3rd, 2020. Timestamp says 8:25 a.m. It's actually 8:15 a.m.
Okay.
You can see the Explorer, Silver Explorer, is still parked in the same spot from the last video. Doesn't appear to have moved. And arriving is a minivan. Again, consistent with Meagan Jackson's van. It's a little difficult to see, but in between the palm fronds there, you can see, again, clothing matching what Chris Dontell was wearing in the Abuelos footage. He goes into the rear hatch of the van, grabs a bag that appears to be the same bag that he's moved back and forth. Timestamp now says 8:28 a.m., which is actually 8:18. You can see the Ford Explorer that Chris Dontell drives is leaving, and then also the van is leaving behind it. And they both leave the parking lot.
Just to be clear, are those merely clips of the entire surveillance video that you retrieved?
That's correct.
So if the jury wanted to watch, could they watch the entire?
They could.
And all those videos that we just saw, were the two vehicles that you pointed out, the Silver Explorer and the van, consistent throughout?
Yes,
And I believe, you said you recognize those?
yes. They both appear to be consistent with what Chris Dontell or Meagan Jackson would use at work.
Let's move on to, did you respond to the Myrtle Beach Funeral Home?
Yes.
And where's that located?
I don't recall the address, but it's just south of Faro Parkway and Highway 17 bypass, in the Myrtle Beach section of Horry County.
And were you able to determine whether Myrtle Beach Funeral Home had an alarm system?
Yes,
Were you able to determine if it was functioning at the time of this murder?
it was functional, but the owner had kept it disabled because he was getting too many false alarms. So he didn't want to pay the false alarm fines.
So,
So there was an active system, but it was not being utilized.
what about surveillance footage? Were you able to get any surveillance footage from the Myrtle Beach Funeral Home?
No, it did have surveillance system at one time, but the information that we obtained was that it had been rendered non-functional during another review for a different instance.
Okay. So were you able to obtain any surveillance footage from the Myrtle Beach Funeral Home?
No, it was not functional at that time.
Okay. What, if anything, did you learn about who has access to the Myrtle Beach Funeral Home?
We asked the funeral director and learned that
Judge, Your Honor,
Here's that.
Defense has asked a number of witnesses if they had, a number of law enforcement witnesses, if there were any reports of shots fired the night Ray
Here you go,
Rice was
Trakeisha.
killed. In your experience, are there always calls when shots are fired in Horry County?
not always.
Move, prosecutor, get ahead of that. The inevitable defense strategy. But did you hear anything?
All right, cross-examination.
And that was their last question.
course and bill.
All right.
Was that the extent of your involvement, sir?
In relation to the death investigation, yes. I believe I obtained a search warrant for maybe some GPS locations related to a possible bond violation,
Okay.
but I'd have to check my notes to remember the exact details.
Did you, as we see here today, do you have a general understanding of what's been alleged to have happened?
Yes.
Do you understand that there's an allegation that Ms. Jackson and Chris Dontell were having an affair?
Correct.
They were having an affair, right? And,
Bless you.
bless you, Honor. And as part of that, some of what we've seen here in terms of Lowe's, you notice every time they left Lowe's and they were going towards Meagan Jackson's house, what vehicle were they in?
I don't know which direction they went when they left the parking lot.
Oh, you didn't have that was not part of your investigation? You don't know where they left and went to?
No, I don't.
Okay. Would it make sense to you that if they were going to take their vehicle, drive to Meagan Jackson's house, where Erica Dontell, the person who is in the dark, lives nearby, that they would take Meagan Jackson's vehicle so as not to reveal
Objection,
the affair?
Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Okay.
That could make sense, yes.
Okay. And so all of the shuffling around of vehicles makes sense for people who are engaged in an affair that they are trying to hide. You agree with that?
Yeah.
You'd also agree with me, wouldn't you, that Meagan Jackson appears to be wearing the same clothes at Voilo's as she was at Lowe's?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that we don't have any audio from any of this footage?
That is correct.
Okay. So we don't know what they were discussing at Voilo's.
Correct.
So any effort to determine what they were discussing based on the evidence you have presented would just be speculation, right?
Correct.
You likewise agree with me that people who are, again, having an affair still have to eat. Is that right?
Absolutely.
And so just being at a restaurant together in and of itself is not any kind of proof of any kind of negative or improper activity.
This is correct.
You probably also agree with me that in these times when there's no report of gunshots, that'd be a little less likely in an area where there are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 residents.
The more densely populated an area is, I would suggest the more likely somebody might call. Horry County's a rural county, though, and you are allowed to hunt in the rural counties, the rural areas of Horry County. You're allowed to shoot as long as you have proper backstop and things like that. So it's not uncommon to hear gunshots in Horry County.
How about at Arrowhead, sir?
Body
Flint Lake
language.
Apartments. How many people live out there?
It's densely populated there, but there are wooded areas, and there's the intracoastal waterway right there as well.
So, chat, if you're not watching the screen, I mean, I think I've commented on her body language already. This is a lot. It's like pause. It's freeze framed on some dramatic body language right now. I know this is day one, but I'm sure they've had hearings and she was making these faces. Maybe she's only doing this with the jury present. They need to coach their client. In opening statements, the prosecution said, she might seem meek and mild, but she is manipulative. And this exaggerated body language, especially when her daughter was on the stand and said one line where it seemed like Meagan Jackson wanted to make a show of whatever the daughter said being wrong. She was just like, they need to coach their client or let the jury can look at her body language. I'm sure they can see it. The jury's going to make of it what they will. And to me, it does not look good.
So we can agree that Flint Lake Apartments is densely populated with people who presumably can hear.
Yeah, correct.
And not only is Flint Lake Apartments in and of itself densely populated, the area driving in and out of there is densely populated with homes.
Correct. There's also woods in that area as well, but yes, it's Myrtle Beach, so it's more metropolitan than, say, Green Sea or Aner.
Okay. Horse and Gold.
All right.
No further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Briefly, Your Honor. I believe Mr. Britton asked you a question about the videos, and you see a lot of shuffling back and forth, and is that consistent with people having an affair? In your 15 years in law enforcement, is that shuffling around also consistent with people involved in a homicide?
It could be. It could be for any number of reasons. I don't know how to elaborate more. It could be for any number of reasons, but that could be also another possibility.
Okay. Nothing further on that.
You may step down.
Thank you.
right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go ahead and take a short break, give you an opportunity to stretch your legs, get something to drink, leave your notepads in the jury box, do not discuss
Notepads.
the case, and get them on yourself. We'll take about a 15-minute break, and we'll come back in a second.
Guys, they're moving through, like, if you take a particular incident in the YSL trial, they have moved through what would take the Fulton County DA's office like 4 days and 12 witnesses to get through. They have already moved through here in this instance. I don't really feel like the defense recovered on with that cross-examination, just my opinion. We'll see what they do next. We'll see what happens next. Maybe they have it looks like the attorneys might be arguing something. So I don't want to skip that.
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Anything from the defense?
Yes, sir,
And
just,
the daughter was
a
19.
request. I need access